Seriously, it's the best intro. Never an episode, but it's the best intro.
Oh, WAC Hoops, we're back at it again. Kyle's favorite part of the show.
It's the music, Bri. It's it's just the music. You got to have good music for a show, whether it's a podcast or whether it's a live show here.
I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to Anitra. She's getting it done. My cousin, behind the scenes, she is the one who made that song happen. So we're gonna go with some purple today. A little purple.
Nice.
Yes. So here we are, WAC Hoops, All Access. Back at it again, episode 5. Man, the season's coming close to a close. All right, we got a lot to talk about. We just had a great interview with Mark Madsen. They're playing really good basketball, along with many other teams in this league. We had an overtime game last night. So much to get to. I think the overall start we'll start with is just the amount of teams that have great records in this league. We'll just go through it really quickly and say 1, 2, 3. I think there's 6 teams that have 17 wins or more. Sam Houston, with their next win, will have 17 themselves. So that'll be seven teams with 17 wins or more. And then there's 8 teams that have a winning record because Cal Baptist has a winning record on the season as well. So what a deep league, what a competitive league, and making it exciting leading up to the tournament without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last time that we had 7 teams with 17 plus wins heading into the final 2 weeks of the regular season. It's just wild to me,
right?
How good it's been. And the thing is, we've seen that anybody can beat anybody on any given night. I mean, last night, Abilene Christian should have beat. Sorry, Brett Tanner. Abilene Christian should have beat Sam Houston at Sam Houston. Foul with under 10 seconds left in the 3-point lead. I'm just going to throw that out there now. But, we saw Dixie State, and we'll get to this in a minute, what they did on Saturday. Utah Valley, what they did on Saturday. It's Seattle, what they did Wednesday night. I mean, since we're recording this, on Friday.
Yeah.
It's just crazy how anything can happen on any given night in this league, and it showed. And, coming down this wire, the seeding hasn't been set. There's no it may come down to the last weekend of the regular season to decide who the regular season champ is, Player of the Year awards. I mean, that's what makes it fun, Bri.
Yeah.
Is that everything is still in play and there's still meaningful weekends, meaningful games coming up.
Yeah, extremely meaningful games. There's no telling kind of how this whole thing is going to play out, to be honest. You can think you may know, but as a fan, you may think and you're rooting for your team, but there's no way to know how the whole thing's going to shake out right now. And I think that's the beauty of a really competitive league. There's no runaway favorite, and the seeding will be as important as anything. So we have right now Seattle is 11-2 in the league. Technically would be a half a game in first place. New Mexico State at 10-2, second place. Sam Houston 11-3, third place, which we'll talk about all these teams a little bit more. Stephen F. Austin 9-4. They've gotten hot and won their last 5. So they're 9-4, sitting in fourth place. Grand Canyon 8-4. Again, you just see how close it is. The winner of the league right now, or the leader, has 2 wins. Second place, third, 3 losses. And yeah, multiple teams with 4. And Utah Valley is 8-5. Abilene Christian 8-6, and they just lost in overtime last night. So each individual win means so much, or loss means so much to kind of get separation. So a lot of jumbled competitive play. Let's talk about the top tier. Let's just kind of get to that first. Top tier. So we'll say the top 4 teams right now will be the top tier, which would be Seattle, New Mexico State, Sam Houston State, and Stephen F. Austin. Yeah.
So I want to clarify a couple things.
Yeah, please.
So technically New Mexico State is 11-2 as well, and Grand Canyon is 9-4 as well, because I'll say that for WAC seeding purposes, and it'll go into I believe it'll go into the regular season championship discussion because of the forfeits to Lamar earlier in the WAC season.
Yeah, break this down.
So those forfeits to Lamar count as wins for you or for GCU and for New Mexico State. So New Mexico State and Seattle are tied 11-2 atop the WAC standings. New Mexico State holds a tiebreaker right now because they beat the Red Hawks earlier this year, but they play on Monday. So the winner of that game may be the regular season champ. We'll see. A lot depends on what happens Saturday because New Mexico State goes to Grand Canyon on Saturday too. So there's a lot there. Sam Houston's kind of all alone by itself in third place. Got a big overtime win last night. Savion Flagg hit a 3-pointer with about 2 seconds left to tie the game to send it overtime. Then hit a floater to give the Bearcats the lead for good in overtime to get that win over Abilene Christian. So they're kind of lingering there, but they play 3 of their final 4 games away from Johnson Coliseum in Huntsville. So we'll see how they play on the road. Stephen F. Austin's probably playing the best basketball out of any team in the WAC right now. I mean, yeah, we'll look at their schedule. They played Chicago State twice. They played Dixie State. They play Lamar Saturday, so they should get their 6th straight win. But they're scoring 80-plus points a game in those wins, which, I mean, their offense can continue to play at a high level with the defense that they have. Watch out for the Lumberjacks going forward. GCU right there as well. They have a chance to make a little bit of noise here down the stretch. KenPom has them predicted to win the rest of their games, so they could jump up into that 3, 4, maybe even the 1 or 2 seed, if they can win out. A lot of basketball to be played here. I mean, you got, like I said, New Mexico State at Grand Canyon, Saturday at Seattle on Monday. If they win those 2 games, they probably are the favorite to win the WAC regular season title. It still would come down to the final weekend because that would Brian, there's just a lot of stuff going on that we can't really predict right now. We can say, the analytics show this or that or whatnot, but we don't play the game on paper. We play the game on the floor, and it's so wild in this conference where it's set up with those top 5 teams are separated by 2 games, 1 game, and we still have 4 or 5 games for most teams left.
Right. No doubt. Yeah. So Seattle, you clarified some of that. I appreciate you doing that. Seattle is at the top with New Mexico State with only 2 losses. Sam Houston with 3.
So both Seattle and New Mexico State control their own destiny towards the regular season title. Right. If Seattle wins out, obviously they're the regular season champion. Mexico State wins out, obviously they're the regular season champion. So it's those 2 teams control their own destiny, and they play each other again. So that's good. So we'll get something decided there. But who knows what will happen in the next 2 weeks? I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, let's talk about who's trending up. We mentioned it a little bit. We'll kind of go faster through this episode. Who's trending up? Obviously, Stephen F. Austin's in that category. I think Utah Valley kind of still is in that category. Abilene Christian in that category. It's kind of the same 3 teams we mentioned before because the other teams have kind of been up there. Abilene Christian took a loss last night in overtime. I think there are different ways you can win. Some people love the foul. Some people choose to let it play out.
Yeah.
The probability of multiple shots going a certain way versus maybe 1 shot is kind of the argument, right? Like if you don't foul, they only have to make 1 shot. Yes, it's a 3, and you tell your team no 3s, but it's usually when some heroics or some magic happens, right? Which sounds like case in point last night. I didn't see it.
And I mean, the shot that Savion Flagg hit, he had to shoot it over Arian Simmons, from the top of the key. So, I mean, it was kind of a prayer that went in, but he didn't have his body lined up to look like it was a regular shot.
It's usually a prayer that goes in those situations.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about what Brett Tanner and their defensive game plan is. It's just like win the game by defending. And, I mean, it was a shot. And even some of the Sam Houston coaches admitted they got really lucky last night. So it could go either way. Like you said, it's one of those things that, every coach has to make a decision in that situation. What are you going to do? So
right, yeah, and it's overtime win for Sam Houston State. So yeah, I'll just let you talk about who's trending up and just some of the game matchups that you've really liked in this last little bit.
Well, so if you haven't been paying attention, Seattle's won 3 straight since losing the 2 road games at Grand Canyon at New Mexico State. On Wednesday night in Edinburgh, holy cows. Cameron Tyson hit 9 3-pointers. The Red Hawks hit 21 3-pointers in the game and won by 40. Okay, this was a game that I thought was going to go the other way with a difficult road trip and so forth. But the Red Hawks, I think, made believers out of a lot of people on Wednesday night. So they're trending up right now, and they get CBU at home on Saturday, and then they get New Mexico State at home on Monday. So they have a chance to basically, again, control their own destiny. A big win over New Mexico State and CBU puts them atop the WAC standings all alone before they go to Utah for their final road trip of the season. Stephen F. Austin, I've been on the last couple of weeks, red hot right now. The offense is catching up to the defense, and this team has been unstoppable. I mean, yes, Dixie State, Chicago State twice, but they do have a win over Utah Valley. They have a road win at CBU. That win at CBU when they scored 81 points kind of awoke this offense. They get Lamar on Saturday, so they're going to probably continue to stay hot. And if you think about it, they go to they host Sam Houston on Thursday, a week from yesterday. So we'll see what they can do if they can stay hot, but they can stay right in that mix. And they're dangerous because they're a veteran group of guys with a major chip on their shoulder because they didn't get to play in the Southland Conference tournament last year due to some NCAA, or a postseason ban that they had. So they're getting ready to get hot and go into WAC Vegas as maybe the hottest team in the WAC. Abilene Christian had won 6 games up until last night when they probably should have won their 7th straight. Team that won 11 straight, then lost 7 straight, now won 6 straight. I mean, they're a team that is like really all in or nothing. So we'll see what they can do. And they've shown that they can win multiple games in a row, which will bode well when they go to Las Vegas for the WAC tournament. So those are kind of 3 teams that are, on the up and up. Utah Valley, beat New Mexico State, got the win over Tarleton on Wednesday, big time road win there. Now they're at Dixie State on Saturday in a renewal of the old Hammer rivalry, looking to keep that going. And another team that may surprise people that I say is trending up. Dixie State's trending up. Okay, they battled with New Mexico State last week, beat Grand Canyon, on Saturday. Then they hung with New Mexico State on Wednesday. They're trending up because of the fact that they're being competitive. They have nothing to lose, and they're going to play spoiler here down the stretch for some teams. I'm telling you, Brian, keep an eye on Dixie State and playing that spoiler role. Those are some of my teams that are trending up right now in the Western Athletic Conference, and it's just the next 2 weeks going to be fun to see who continues to trend up or how those change.
Yeah, we'll go upcoming games. Let's talk about some of the matchups. Obviously, tomorrow there's some big ones again, as always, and then we'll talk next week about the ones coming up after that. But anything that stands out for you coming up tomorrow?
Yeah, Grand Canyon or New Mexico State at Grand Canyon, big time game. Obviously, the Aggies. Actually, GCU is predicted to win that game, which could set the Aggies back if they don't. Last year, GCU beat the Aggies twice in Phoenix when they were playing those back-to-back games, 2 games at one spot. So this is an interesting matchup. And New Mexico State won the game by 10 the first time they played back in January, 71-61. But Grand Canyon led for a lot of that game, especially in the first half. And we've seen, the guards from Grand Canyon, when they get going, they're tough to stop. So the game between the guards, Teddy Allen and Jabari Rice for New Mexico State, Holland Woods and Javon Blacksher Jr. for Grand Canyon. That should be an intriguing matchup. The outlier for both teams, I think, is going to be Johnny McCants for New Mexico State, and it's going to be Sean Miller-Moore for Grand Canyon. Whichever one of those 2 guys plays better, that team's going to win the game. So keep an eye on that. It's a huge, huge game for both squads. I mean, I think Grand Canyon trying to stay in the mix for a 2, 3, 4 seed. They need a win. New Mexico State looking to stay atop the WAC standings for the regular season, so that's a huge game. And then, off the radar a little bit, Dixie State or Utah Valley at Dixie State, the old Hammer rivalry renewed. Dixie State's played well. Utah Valley beat the Trailblazers this season already, but in a rivalry game, anything can happen. Utah Valley is trying to continue to move up and stay away from that 7 to 10 Tuesday games at WAC Vegas. Dixie State has nothing to lose. And in a rivalry game, that's what matters. So those are a couple of my games to watch this weekend on Saturday. And there should be a couple of fun games to watch as well. So keep those on your radar on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll keep the show rolling, man. We'll go straight to the awards. We had some good ones this week. Going backwards to last week, that went out this week. Player of the week, we met with Coach Madsen. We didn't talk in depth about Fardaws, but we know pretty good amount. But he has made a significant jump. There was so much to talk about with Coach. We didn't get to jump into that specifically, but let's talk about Player of the Week.
So Fardaws Amac, Utah Valley's big man, is our Player of the Week. People will say I'm biased. Yes, I'm going to start saying it. I am biased. I am a Utah Valley grad. Mark Madsen put me on the spot today.
You can own it. Own it.
I will own that. I'm a Utah Valley grad.
When you're an alum,
Utah Valley wins it, I may cheer from press row. I'm sorry.
Let me have my guys back on this. You can. Jay Billis is allowed to be biased towards Duke, even though he's supposed to be neutral at times. I think if you announce your bias, you went to school there, own it, man. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Listen, I am about as neutral as they come, but deep down, I do bleed green. There's no denying that.
Of course.
And I'm not going to deny it. If I was voting for Player of the Year, it's hard not to vote for Fardaws Amac and what he's done this year. I mean, he's averaging 19-plus points, 13-plus rebounds.
Yep.
Last year, it was 13-plus points and 15 rebounds per game. The guy's getting double and triple teamed night in and night out. Utah Valley doesn't shoot a lot of threes, so teams are able to sink on him in the paint. So he's just the fact that he averages 19-plus points and 13 rebounds a game should be like celebration for anybody. Anybody else in the WAC that did that, people would be going nuts for him. The only hit is that Utah Valley is lower in the rankings than New Mexico State and Sam Houston, so that may give a nod to Teddy Allen and Savion Flagg in the votes. But like I feel like the reason people are downplaying it a little bit is because we've become accustomed to Fardaws Amac getting a double-double every game. I mean, he has 22 of them this year. That leads the nation. Okay, so people have gotten immune to what this guy is doing. I mean, when they beat Washington, he had 15 and 15, and they called it a quiet night. Anybody else in the country, that's like a massive night.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm getting a little bit passionate here. I'm sorry about that, but this guy, what he's doing is really, really good, really, really impressive. Because they don't have Trey Woodbury. They don't have that other 20-plus point scorer this year.
Right.
Who's had to take on more of that offensive role. And like I said, if you saw one of the pictures he posted when they played UTRGV, 3 guys are hanging on his jersey, holding him down from getting a rebound.
Right.
That's what he deals with night in and night out. And, Utah Valley got a split this past weekend against Grand Canyon. Then they beat New Mexico State. And Dawes averaged, what do I have here? 19 points and 12 rebounds for the Wolverines in those 2 games. And he had 5 assists against the Aggies because he was passing out of the double team and finding his open, teammates. That's why he's our Player of the Week. He's doing – that's the one thing going forward that is he continues to progress. Passing out of those double and triple teams or knowing where to go with the ball, it's going to make him that much better.
Right. Well said. Big time player who's added a 3-point shot to his game this year. So he's even more of a threat. But yeah, those numbers are ridiculous. Pretty much video game numbers that average 13 rebounds and 19 points.
And he had a 20-20 night on Wednesday night at Tarleton.
He did, which is a big reason why he is player of the week is for his performances. Let's go a little quicker on this one. Defensive player of the week. You've talked about this team. We'll give a little shout out to this player who deserves it, and then we'll go to Newcomer.
Yeah, Brandon Chatfield from Seattle. 6 blocks combined in a pair of wins last week over UTRGV and Lamar. Seattle's got their rim protector, at 6'11", the Washington State transfer, giving them some size that they haven't had. So it's a big thing for a team that's 20-6 overall, 11-2 in WAC play. And really, it's the best season that they've had in a long, maybe 40, 50 years up there in the Pacific Northwest. So Brandon Chatfield's our defensive player of the week for that rim protection.
Yes, then we go straight to Newcomer of the week.
Newcomer of the week, Dancel Leader from Dixie State. Had averaged 15 points for the Trailblazers, earned a split of New Mexico State and Grand Canyon this past weekend. Athleticism all over the floor, can play multiple positions, create some mismatch problems for teams. John Judkins got to love this transfer that he got from Odessa College, and he's making an impact this year. So Dancel Leader is our Newcomer of the week.
Yeah, and partly because of a big win, big upset win in his performance in that one. Mention that real quick before we go to six-man.
Yeah, I mean, the Trailblazers got that 61-60 win over Grand Canyon on Saturday, and Leader was a big part of that with the defensive side of things. It's just impressive what he's done. Like I said, his athleticism, his quickness, his ability to finish at the rim, and he can knock down the three was huge in that win over Grand Canyon on Saturday.
Okay, next up we got our six-man.
Six-man is Cameron Steele out of Abilene Christian. They only had the one game against at Tarleton in a rivalry renewed of that Division II era between the two teams. Had 11 points off the bench. Included the dagger with the two-handed flush with under a minute to play. Cameron Steele is our six-man of the week as the Wildcats got the double-digit win over Tarleton.
And then freshman of the week.
Freshman of the week goes to Taron Armstrong. He's finally healthy, finally back on the floor. He averaged 10.5 points, 9.5 assists, and the Lancers 2 wins over Lamar and UTRGV over the weekend. Missed a month due to non-COVID illness. Is getting his feet back under him. And so he is our freshman of the week. Had he played, the entire season, maybe still will be, could have arguably been the freshman of the year.
Yeah, and this team probably would have had even more wins had he been playing. He's arguably their best player, most important player for creating shots for his teammates.
Yeah, his length and his his awareness, his high IQ, and his size kind of creates a mismatch sometimes. The one knock right now is, in bigger games like against GCU or New Mexico State, got to take care of the basketball a little bit better. But those are freshman things and things that he'll be able to clean up over the next year or two.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go next to our breakout player of the week.
So this guy, I made a mistake assuming he was a freshman in one of our first episodes of this WAC All Access. So I want to apologize for that. But if his team, if UTRGV was having a better season, I feel like this Justin Johnson would be in discussion for WAC Player of the Year. Just quietly flying under the radar. Had 36 points against California Baptist on Saturday. Averaged 28.5 points and 7.5 rebounds in a pair of losses at Seattle and at California Baptist. Just a guy that gets up and down the floor, that can finish at the rim, can knock down a three. That's a mismatch problem with his size, playing in a guard position. Like I said, if UTRGV was having a better season, Justin Johnson, our breakout player of the week, would be probably in the player of the year conversation. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's all of our awards that we have. So we got breakout, which is a new one. We wanted to give a shout out to maybe a team that may not necessarily always win, but someone has some great performances, or they do have some performances on a team that does win. So we wanted to add that to the fold. We've kind of already talked upcoming games. We'll give our quick women's basketball shout outs, and then we'll let you close the show.
Utah Valley, their women's team is playing really well. They got a big win at Grand Canyon last week. Then they swept that weekend by beating New Mexico State and Las Cruces. And then they got a big win over Tarleton this week. So they've won 3 straight. The Grand Canyon women had a blowout win over the defending WAC champion, California Baptist Lancers yesterday, excuse me. And then Stephen F. Austin women, they're just continuing to roll. They're probably going to be the regular season champion. They could, I believe, seal that up this week. I'll have to look at it, but I believe they will seal that up this week. But overall, the women's game is getting better. Sam Houston finally lost a game since Raven Justice came back. Abilene Christian handed them a loss last night. So the women's side is just as fun as the men's side right now. A lot of good basketball being played. And like I said, we're 3 weeks away. 3 weeks from today will be the WAC semifinals, Brian. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here into mid-late February.
Yes, we are. So closing thoughts on the show. I think that a couple of things come to mind to me. I think we talked about it already, obviously, but the 6 teams, about to be 7 with Sam Houston's next win, whenever they get that have 17 wins or more, I think is significant. You have teams approaching 20 wins and shows the level of play, the level of coaching, the level of talent and great teams in this league. So I think that needs to be noted. This stretch run is all about trying to figure out how to get separation. Teams are getting healthy that haven't been healthy. We talked about Stephen F. Austin in that case. A little bit of Abilene Christian's been playing really well. Now Utah Valley's getting full healthy. And then, guys coming back from injury that may not be in the fold. Those things always kind of come into play. And I think, even talking to Coach Jans, he mentioned his team. He thought they still had another level they could get to. So this time period, this last little stretch run, really hard to get wins. I think everybody's trying to figure out how to make position for the tournament, and everyone's working to play their best basketball so they can get on a run for March. There's a couple of things I've mentioned. And then lastly, for me, personal yet important in a national scale, we are doing something with Rising Coaches, the Equality and Inclusion Night. First year we've ever done it, something that the DEI Alliance that I'm fortunate to be vice president of came up with to do, to just continue to put insight in mind and have front and center the conversation around how important it is. Just those big, huge words of equality and inclusion. They mean a lot to each program. Maybe it means something different, but I think the words in general is something that we wanted to draw more attention to, and what those words mean and represent. And so there's no one thing only. It's not a coaches versus cancer only. Just like there's different types of cancer, that's kind of a broad, blanket. Similarly enough, we just want to continue to bring attention, awareness, celebration to the differences in all of us, and just make sure we're approaching things with a sense of love and unity and togetherness, and not this division that can happen sometimes. And also just an awareness to be conscious that there are differences that we should respect and appreciate and learn about and value. So that's the biggest reason for it. We'll do it every year, and hopefully we can continue to get some WAC teams to participate. There should be pins at every Division I school. If the mail didn't somehow get lost in translation. But, we've been excited. We've had a lot of great participation from across the nation. We want to continue to build that. And, so I want to give that quick closing thought, and I'll pass it to my teammate for the game winner.
No, I like that, Brian, about, understanding we all have differences, and maybe respect the fact that we all have differences, but we can all have that same respect for each other, in regard to that. I think that's a huge thing. So a great, promotion here, and something that, not just for the couple weeks, it should be a thing that's in our everyday life, is understanding that we're all, different, and, we all have different views on things, but that doesn't mean you can't respect or love your neighbor, or, not to get into the whole religious thing, but that's just the thought that you can respect each other. You can agree to disagree, and still, call each other your friend, or call each other a colleague, or, I love that. So
Yeah, the religious aspect it would be love your neighbor as yourself, of course. But yeah, I just think there's just I could talk about this for a long time, but I think the biggest thing is just it does mean something different to everybody. But I think bringing it up in a national sense hopefully helps it to be something that stays inside of mind, not just every 4 years when there's an election, and people may want to use those things as motive or a tactic or a strategy to help them get what they want. It's not about that. It should be something every year that we're celebrating, talking about. Again, I think celebrating the differences, celebrating who we are as people, as individuals, and having ownership and pride in that, and not feel like you have to hide that just because you are different. So yeah, I think all those things kind of go into it. So yeah, that's my spiel for today on that, and we look forward to some great WAC games tomorrow. Kyle already outlined those, and then back at it again next week, and with more awards and more fun content. So we're getting close to the tournament. WAC Vegas coming soon. So thanks for joining us. You know where to find Kyle, WAC Hoops Digest, and you know where to find us, All Access Network.